To what exactly should black people be patriotic? To what exactly should black people be patriotic? That's what I'm asking. To what exactly should we be patriotic? Should we be patriotic to Willie Lynch, Jim Crow, 45, 46 presidents that have ignored us and through their silence gave consent for the continued racism, the continued systemic discrimination, the continued bias, the continued inequity, the continued benign neglect of presidents such as Hussein Insane, Barack Insane Obama, or a Donald Trump, or even now a Joe Biden who's done nothing for black people, but he wants to come to Tulsa and give a speech at the Black Wall Street Centennial. Passed no laws, no executive orders, but President Biden went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and gave a speech on the centennial of Black Wall Street and how Black Wall Street got burned down and how black people were massacred 100 years ago in Tulsa. Well, guess what, President Biden? Black people are still being massacred in this country right now. Black people are still being disenfranchised in this country right now, President Joe Biden, and you have done absolutely nothing about it. See, I'm tired of us letting white folks skate. I'm tired of us letting white folks skate. They don't do anything for black people now, but they could give a speech on what happened to black people 100 years ago. That is hypocrisy. That is hypocrisy. How dare you ignore the black Holocaust taking place on your watch right now? How dare you ignore the black Holocaust taking place on your watch right now, but you will go and pay tribute to a black Holocaust that happened 100 years ago. If you don't care about black people today, you damn sure didn't care about black people yesterday. If you don't care about black people today, you damn sure don't care about black people yesterday. It's like these white folks who will mistreat black people. You understand? And practice racism against black people and stand by why police kill black people, but you want to talk about how wrong slavery was. You want to talk about how wrong Jim Crow was. You want to talk about how wrong segregation was. How in the hell can you care about my ancestors and not care about me? Somebody explain that to the prince. How in the hell can you not care about my ancestors, but you don't care about me? That's hypocrisy. And I'm tired of black people letting white folks come into our community and mock us directly in our faces. Tulsa, Oklahoma, you don't let Joe Biden come there and give no speech on the centennial of Black Wall Street when we catching hell right now and he's doing nothing about it. Do you think a Nazi could go to a Jewish Holocaust museum? Do you think a Nazi today could go to a Jewish Holocaust museum and give a speech on the Jewish Holocaust? Do you think they would receive him? Do you think they would receive him? I'm not even sure they would receive their descendants. I'm not even sure they would receive their descendants. But this is what black people do. We let the oppressor come amongst us during our most sacred ceremonies. We will let the oppressor come amongst us during our most sacred ceremonies and mock us to our faces. This is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we do. Brothers and sisters, we must do better. Brothers and sisters, we must do better. So when people ask me about black people being patriotic to America, and when I hear Negroes on TV talk about how they love their country, they say, I love my country. I love our country. What country are you talking about? Are you talking about Nigeria, where your ancestors came from? Are you talking about Ghana, where your ancestors came from? Are you talking about Liberia or Congo, where your ancestors came from? Are you talking about Jamaica or Trinidad? What country are you talking about, belongs to you, number one? And what country are you talking about that you love so much? Everywhere I go, I love my country. I love my country. This is what I heard Negroes say. I love my country. I am proud of my country. Well, guess what? I got news for you, Negroes. I got news for you, Africoons and Africans. I got news for you, Africoons and Africans. Since you love this country so much, I want you to understand something. To love a person is to love their history. To love a person is to love their history, because at the end of the day, a country is nothing more than its history. Because the country's identity was forged in its history, and the country's reputation was forged in its history. So when a Negro says, I love America, when a Negro says, I love America, it's a little hot inside the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. It's a little hot inside the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. Black privilege. That's the melanin fact. When a Negro says, I love my country, he's saying, I love America's slavery. I love America's Jim Crow. I love America's segregation. I love America's eugenics. I love America's mass incarceration. I love America's gentrification. I love America's economic castration. I love America's police genocide. When you say you love America, you love who she is. I love America means I love what this country does to my people. How dare you be black and proud and love America? Those two cannot coexist. I'm not preaching hate, I'm preaching facts. You can't say I'm black and proud, but I love America. Those two things cannot coexist. You can't serve two masters. Many of you are Christian. Jesus told you, Black Christ of Ethiopia, you cannot serve two masters. You will love one and betray the other. You cannot serve two masters. So when you say, I love my country, you July 4th Negroes. You can't wait to cook out July 4th Negroes. You can't wait to get drunk July 4th Negroes. You can't wait for that pork chop July 4th Negroes. You can't wait for the fireworks. You want to see the fireworks? The fireworks was those slave whips and slave chains and slave ships and slave code. That was the damn fireworks. Taking your kids out to celebrate their oppressor's freedom when you were still their slave for nearly another century. Some of you Negroes make me sick. You're not patriotic enough to America. You know how many black men went overseas, fought and died for this country, came back and were lynched in their uniforms? Do you know how many black men went overseas, fought, came back to the country and were lynched in their uniforms? One of the reasons for the red hot summer of 1919 and the red hot summer of 1967, one of the biggest reasons for the red hot summer of 1919 and the red hot summer of 1967 was the fact that black veterans came back to America after serving in foreign theaters of war, came back after giving their life or risking their life or limb, came back to receive segregation soon when they got back home. Came back to receive segregation soon when they got back home. Many of them lynched in the uniform that they nearly died for overseas. Lynched in the uniform. And you want to tell me you're proud to be an American. What exactly are you proud of? The slave master or the slave whip? What are you proud of? The slave ship or the slave law? What are you proud of? The racism or the segregation? What are you proud of? The bias or the inequity? What exactly is a black man and woman proud of when they say, I'm proud to be an American? What exactly do you love when you say, I love America? Help me understand, overstand, and understand. Help me understand, overstand, and understand what you're talking about. Help me understand. Help me understand. What do you mean when you love? When I see you Negroes on July 4th at the fireworks, when I see all these rappers and singers performing for the July 4th, 1776 celebration, when I see black celebrities performing for the July 4th, 1776 celebration, what exactly are you celebrating? Do you realize you're co-signing the slavery? You're co-signing the Jim Crow. You're co-signing the Willie Lynch. You're co-signing the Black Wall Street destruction. You're co-signing Barack Obama and George Bush. You're co-signing Bill Clinton and Joe Biden. What exactly are you in love with? My country. Your ass can't even go to the store without the police harassing you. My country. You can't even buy a house without the white folks sabotaging you. My country. They hanging nooses outside your house, nooses outside your lecture hall. Even bougie Negroes working in American colleges are getting nooses hung on their car. They go to the parking lot and they got a noose hanging on their car. You love your country. When did America change? We came a long way. What exactly did we come a long way from? What exactly did we come a long way from? You're celebrating a white man's freedom while you were his slave. July 4th, 1776, Frederick Douglass said it best. To what? What to the Negro is the 4th of July? Frederick Douglass said his bet. What to the Negro is the 4th of July? What to the Negro is the 4th of July? See, in order to understand the black man and woman's love for America, you got to understand post-traumatic slavery disease. In order to understand the black man and woman's love for America, you must understand post-traumatic slavery disease. You must. I'm going to talk about this in Fayetteville tomorrow. I'm going to talk about this in Fayetteville, North Carolina tomorrow. I'm going to talk about this in Statesville, North Carolina Sunday. I'm going to talk about this in Hartford, Connecticut on June 25th. I'm going to talk about this in Springfield, Massachusetts on June 27th. I'm going to talk about this in Detroit on June the 18th. I'm going to talk about this in Louisville, August 14th, Garvey Day. I'm going to talk about this in Kenosha, Wisconsin on August the 21st. I'm going to talk about this in the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix, August the 28th, at the 84th anniversary of the Ethiopian World Federation. We got to talk about this cooning. Cooning is a cancer that kills the consciousness of our collective efforts. Cooning is the cancer that kills the consciousness of our collective efforts. Cooning is the cancer that kills the consciousness of our collective efforts. We must do better. I'm proud of my country. And you got states passing laws right now making it illegal to teach public school students about American racism. This is the new thing right now. This is the new thing. It's not just about getting rid of the 1619 Project. It's not just about that. They are passing laws across this country, making it illegal to teach children about racism. And you wonder why we want an independent school. They're making it illegal to teach black children about racism in this country. And you wonder why Dr. Umar wanted to build an independent Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. Now you can see why. Now you can see why. Now you can see why. Because what they're doing now is making it illegal for public and charter schools. They're making it illegal in many states for public and charter schools, illegal to teach the truth about racism. If this were a public or charter school, I wouldn't be able to teach the boys, the young men of the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy about racism. But I'm the political science teacher. At this school, the principal is the political science teacher. I am the political science teacher. They will understand, overstand, and understand the origin, progression, and destruction of racism at the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. Y'all better wake up and smell the coffee. Y'all better wake up and smell the coffee. Y'all thought Donald Trump was bad. Why hasn't Joe Biden pushed back against this new initiative taking over America to legally prevent the teaching of racism in America's schools? They want to legally prevent the teaching of racism in America's schools. They want to legally prevent the teaching of racism in America's schools. And you proud of your country. You love your country. Can I ask you a question? May I ask a clarifying question? If this is in fact your country, why don't you own hardly any of its wealth? If this is in fact your country, why don't you own hardly any of its banks? If this is in fact your country, why don't you control almost none of its laws? If this is your country, why don't you control any of its assets? If this is your country, black man and woman, if this is your country, why can't you stop them from killing your children? If this is your country, if it's yours, if this is your country, if it's yours, when you say mine or our, you're saying possessively, I am a part of the ownership of the USA. So if you are part of the ownership of the United Slave Masters of America, if you're claiming ownership of the USA, United Bloodsuckers of America, if this is your country, United Slave Masters, in fact, they should change the name. They need another S. It should be USSA. United Slave Masters and Slaves of America. USSA. United Slaves and Slave Masters of America, because you coons are complicit in what they do to us. United Slaves and Slave Masters of America, because you coons are complicit in what they do to us. United Slaves and Slave Masters of America, because you coons are complicit in what they do to us. But if it's your country, why you can't make the president do nothing for you? If it's your country and you're 17%, you should have 17% of the banks, 17% of the businesses, 17% of the oil, 17% of the stock, 17% of import, export. If this is your country, Africans and Africans, if you own this, if it's yours, why can't you force anything of benefit to us through your country's governmental apparatus? Your country, you got one Supreme Court justice who is a coon. Your country, you got two black senators. One is a coon, the other might be on his way. Your country, you had one president, ignored your ass for 8 years. So let me get this right. In your country, there's an anti-Asian bill. In your country, there's an anti-LGBTQ bill, but there is no anti-lynching bill as a federal crime in 400 years and 200 tries. So help me understand how you get an anti-Asian bill. They didn't build America. You got an anti-LGBT bill. They didn't build America, but you can't get an anti-lynching bill after 400 years and 200 tries. But this is your country. Help me understand, overstand, and understand. Nah, I'm not going to entertain you indigenous Negroes today. See, the word indigenous is not an indigenous word. Did you know that? Did you know that? Did you know the word aboriginal is not an aboriginal word? Did you know that? See, you intellectual masturbators want to keep on trying to antagonize the Pan-African movement because we're more successful than you and we're stronger than you and we're more progressive than you. So you want to keep on having these intellectual punching matches. You want to intellectually masturbate words. You want a word fight. You want to fight over words. Well, here's a little word fight for you. The word Africa is older than the word aboriginal and indigenous. Let me say it again. The word Africa is older than the word aboriginal and indigenous. Let me say it again. The word Africa is older than the word aboriginal and indigenous. Furthermore, the word Africa comes from the original Nile Valley tongue of our first ancestors, Af-ra-ka, and it means, under some interpretations, birth of man, and it means, under other interpretations, from the Spirit of God. And there's multiple interpretations of the word Af-ra-ka, but what we all understand about Af-ra-ka is that it is indigenous to Africa. It is aboriginal to Africa. It is native to Africa. The word aboriginal comes from a white man, and the word indigenous comes from another white man. The word Africa comes from the black man. You can call yourself whatever you want, but as for me, I shall be African today, tomorrow, until the day I die. Aboriginal is a white man's word. Indigenous is a white man's word. The word Africa is a black man's word. So you can take your intellectually masturbating ass off my life. I thought I told you that this is only for Africans. This live is for Africans. It's for the Ghanaian African. It's for the Jamaican African. It's for the Brazilian African. It's for the London African. It's for the French African. It's for the Ethiopian African. It's for the American African. It's for the Canadian African. It's for the South Pacific African. It's for the South African. It is for the Ethiopian African. It is for the Trinidadian African. It is for the Mexican African, but it is only for the African. So if you are not an African, hop off the damn live. Brothers and sisters, I need to wrap this up. Sister Montrese, I will see you tomorrow in Fayetteville.